fuel system, fuel tanks, and all sorts of lines. Just all the lines. Let's get to it. I got Mike from Red Barn Racing here. He's got a headache, so he's wearing glasses to avoid light. You want me to just turn the lights off? Would that help?
No, he's work fine.
Oh, he's good. So we got all sorts of fittings. We got Holley fuel system going into the car. We got our narrowed fuel tank from Detroit Speed and lots of brake line stuff, transmission lines, power steering lines, and fuel lines. So right now, Mike is, we measured the depth of the fuel tank, so we have to trim and cut the lines on the hat, plus the mount for the fuel pump to fit. So this fuel pump setup works in fuel tanks 12 and a half inches all the way over. The fuel pump is set up for 450 liters per hour, I believe. And it should be more than enough fuel for what we're doing, even if we're running E85.
E85 and fuel injected.
And fuel injected.
Yep.
But we're carbureted. What was the PSI this pump can run versus what you think we're gonna run?
Oh, typically this pump runs at 58 PSI, and it will actually run at about 8 to 10.
So we're not really gonna put any demand on this pump whatsoever.
Yeah, most of the fuel will be running through the return system constantly.
It's gonna be sleeping.
Yep.
So, but we got our sending unit. This is what tells your vehicle how much fuel you have. The hat. Look at the pump, so tiny. The dimensions, we basically had to cut everything off. Like, that's how long the tube was. It was that long. I guess that would be set up for the 12-inch tank.
Yep.
And our tank is very much not 12 inches. But we got lots of fittings, lots of everything. That's what's going on today. Not necessarily going to be doing any full walkthrough guides today, but just more of let's get this done kind of thing. So let's get to it. Unfortunately, so I moved to a lapel mic, so I don't know how well you can hear Mike.
Probably not.
But yeah, there you go. There's the hat assembled with the pump. What do they call that thing? The sock?
Yep, this is the sock.
The fuel sock?
This is one of those fancy fuel mats from Holley. So
yeah, it's all from Holley.
It's shaped like this on purpose. So whenever you hit the brakes, the fuel will go forward and you can still pull fuel through here.
Oh, nice.
It doesn't have to be completely submerged to pull fuel through it.
That's
Super
good.
Cool stuff.
So we modified and trimmed and got it all in. I kind of showed this earlier, but the hat's done, but we found out with the way that the tank is baffled, I had to change the angle of the sucker upper, the sock. Yeah, I know. So right now we're
you just made that up, didn't you?
I did.
The sucker upper. That's like a good. That's like the next person in line at work.
So now the sending unit, again, it's fully adjustable, but we found for our specific setup, we had to take the whole arm off and then just put the sensor on the primary arm. And now we're adjusting for the float, which it's not going to be that long.
Well, now you can see how much fuel's in the passenger seat.
Yeah. But we're just setting this up, getting it all trimmed, and then gonna see how the fitment is on the inside. Hey, I'm gonna be real curious how we slide. I guess you just slide that part in and then you line it up, and yeah, it's a really small hole this is going into. So we're at the portion now where you kind of have to make the decision if are you a half a tank kind of like car driver, like hey, I got a half tank, I gotta go fill up. Or are you that guy that lets it get really close to empty?
My truck's 31 gallons. I hate empty.
It is like a brutal fill up, isn't it?
It's $120.
So, but you can see the motion. I got quite a bit of motion. So when it's full, it's just like my truck. My truck's the same way. It'll sit at full.
Yeah.
And then after probably 8 of the 27 gallons, then it just starts going.
Yep. Yeah, so basically this is where you'll start up at, wipe the throttle once, and then pull out the driveway.
and they're in. So on the sending unit, basically we had to slide in the sensor with the float. Is that what that is? With the float in first, then we slid it back onto the metal thing, screwed it in, and then put the sending unit all the way in and bolted it in. The sending unit does come with new screws compared to the ones that came in the fuel tank. So we didn't use the screws that were already in there. We used the ones that came with the unit. As far as this setup goes, it's just a nice little trickery. The hole's like exactly the size of the top of the hat. So just getting it lined up perfect and sliding it right on in. And yeah, now we just have to tighten these up. So when you tighten them, basically the little metal tabs swing out and pinch it down. As far as tightening, I gotta read the manual to find out how tight those bolts need to be.
All the way.
All the way. All the way tight. Okay, so we kind of stopped on the fuel stuff. We did get our -6 return line and our -8 outline, so that's gonna be fueling the vehicle. And now we've kind of maneuvered over to the brake system. Now the downside here is I bought the traditional kit. So my kit kind of came weird. Came with two basically identical looking front pieces that go side to side. I bought this long one, so this is the front to back section. And then it came with the proportioning valve connectors, which are buried underneath my book. But as my car literally had nothing, a lot of this stuff isn't getting used because those lines basically got replaced with the lines that came with the brake system I got. So that would be these lines here. So I already had it. We ran this setup down and under, used the factory mount points. It's pretty straightforward. Literally, we just fished it around and now we're just bending the lines to make sure we have proper clearances. The other thing that I had to order that my car didn't have is the left and right side brackets. So this is the left side bracket. Typically the factory lines come straight up this piece. It looks really weird. It's not a pretty piece whatsoever, but it should come up to the factory proportioning valve, which would have been here, but this proportioning valve is a little out of position. So again, we'll have to bend and tweak lines, such as this line here is gonna mount here. So we'll have to bend and twist and contort it to get it in position. Now, a lot of people would be like, well, why don't you just do custom lines? And I could have gone that route, but honestly, I kind of cheaped out and didn't want to wait. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. What do you think, Mike?
It's because we thought it'd be better.
Yeah, we did think it would be better to use the factory lines, but...
But as always, that's what we get for thinking.
You gotta not think. I mean, these are obviously factory reproduction, pre-bent lines, so... But they also line up if I was running a factory setup up top, which I'm not. So we knew that would be an issue. The one thing that I will say in looking at my guidebook, which I'll also highlight, this thing has been a lifesaver. So it does give you kind of an overview of how the front to rear line goes, and it goes on the inside of the frame rail. And most of the bends and everything on this line look accurate. They look normal. So that's a win in this side. But I'll go back over to Mike. You could see the right-hand bracket that I had to purchase. So this right-hand bracket wasn't on the car. I had to pick that up, which is fine, wasn't expensive. And we got that brake line now ran, and now that it's attached, we can bend it and get it as tight to the frame as we can. Obviously, you don't want it directly on the frame because it's going to vibrate.
But we don't want it on the headers.
Yeah, but you also don't want it on the headers so you don't flash boil your brake fluid. But that's why there's that little...
Oh, that's what it's ceramic coated for brake
spring?
lines?
Well, yeah, well, the headers are ceramic coated, but that's also why those brake lines have that little springy wrap on there, is so it will keep it away from direct contact to the header.
Heat wrap it.
Just heat wrap it. So the interesting thing is we got two lines that look like they go from passenger side over to driver side of proportioning valve. And every single line that I've seen on the intranet web is this kit. They have two lines that are basically the same. So I'm not entirely sure how they expect a run from the bottom of this proportioning valve to down to here. Like, it's literally, I'm almost wondering if we can bend. So unfortunately it's not long enough.
No, we could put it in the, run it over the steering column.
You're right. We could take this line and just tie it in a bow. Just be like, here, we'll just connect that one there. Yeah, something's not right here. So these kits are a little wonky. So we'll have to figure out how we're gonna do the driver's side or the left-hand side brake line, but that's an easy run. We can custom bend that or find a line to make it work. So the rear is a little bit easier. Obviously we gotta run the line front to back and tuck it in. It's not too difficult to do. And all the kits out there seem to have the same stuff. So this is the replacement factory brake line mounting hardware. Like words. Find the words, and then CPP has all of these brackets and kits. So this wraps around the axle to then mount the main metal brackets for the hard line to the soft line. Unfortunately, the soft line in the rear is just black rubber. The fronts are at least stainless steel lines. And I don't know if I can see them. Yeah, you can kind of see them. So you can see a stainless steel line. Looks nice. It's not the highest of quality, but it's not the crappiest. It's not black rubberized hosing. So then we have to do the rears. So this is most of the kit for the parking brake. And then these are the connection bolts and pieces for the actual brake line for the rear. So I have them separated. I don't want to mix it up. That's, oh, we already opened the front. So that's the rear. So we're good. Are you saying we partially have brakes?
I wouldn't go that far, but we got one tight fitting.
Thanks, Mike.
Putting the hose in.
Did you say the hose or the hose?
The hose.
The hose. And then for the rear, so there is a rear bracket that you need. I need to look at the booklet, because the last time I was under the rear, I couldn't quite figure out where this mounted. So there it is right there. But where is that on the car?
That's gonna be, remember we pointed that spot?
No, I don't think that's it. This is like showing the side. This is showing a completely different location. No, okay. Okay. I see what it's showing me.
The Heath Michael hammer?
Let's go under there and look. I think I know what it's showing me. Let's see if I understand. Okay, well, I was hoping to show you where this mounts, but we got a problem. Where'd it go? So this bracket here is supposed to mount right up here, but because we have the Detroit Speed set up, this literally blocks the mounting holes. You can kind of see them right up in here. So it's supposed to mount right here where my fingers are. I believe it mounts this way. So then the brake line from the front to rear comes up the side right here and then hooks around, and then you have your flex line here. So this side basically mounts to the two hard lines going to each corner of your rear brakes, and then this one screws into the front to rear setup that we're running from front to rear. So we're gonna have to do a custom setup. We'll have to figure out where we can maybe put some nutserts or something to be able to bolt the bolt to, and yeah, we'll have to do something. The other thing is the lines that came with the CPP setup, they don't line up. They're not even close. So you can kind of see how this setup is ran over. The bend there is way too high going to the disc brake. Maybe that's for a drum. No, it couldn't be for a drum setup. It has to be for this disc brake setup because it's all the same. But I mean, they have the bend for over the diff, which makes sense. That, I mean, they bent that properly. But if you look at how this line, like, no matter the orientation, we've tried this way and that way and other way, and it's nowhere close. Like, you can't run the hard line against the axle. It has to come up and over. So I'm a little confused on how they expect us to run this, because even if we flip this around this way, that's not at the right angle. and this is like protruding into the, I don't know. I don't know. So these are the fun things we're running into right now. Just, yeah, it's frustrating, but whatever.
We're gonna come around the carburetor, make sure we get plenty of brake fluid into the carburetor, and run it down to here.
I'm assuming you're gonna bend that to the dimension we need, and then we can then use your flare tool to reflare it.
Really, what I'm doing right now is just seeing how ugly these loop-de-loops are.
They're pretty ugly.
This looks like a ride at Six Flags at this point.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, this is horrible.
You're not wrong. That's gonna look amazing. Okay, front to rear line. That was actually a lot easier to mount than I thought it would be, but here, I'll get down and I have one hole on the frame that is stripped, but you can see how it runs front to back. Sorry, it's a little wavy. I haven't tried to really straighten it out, but crosses over, comes on up, and then you can see where the line would have gone up, but we have to improvise for the rear, as I mentioned earlier. So the front to rear line is in. There's the extra bracket that I couldn't get to mount. But yeah, we have to figure out what we're doing with the curly cues. I don't know. I mean, I get with the high-end builds, people like the custom angled and everything matching and all that stuff, but I don't know if I'm completely sold on the curly cue setup. I don't know. I like a little bit of the old school ghetto-ness.
I like it, but it just aesthetically doesn't look pleasing. It's just, I mean, we'd have to 90 it out from here, re-curly cue it here, and then try to match this bend where it comes down, and then we would have to snake it down underneath here, and then back around to the back side there to get it to look right, I think. And I just don't know if I'm sold on that, because it would look funny down here, but be pleasing up here.
Yeah, and the bigger issue is the proportioning valve is like 9-10 inches more forward than the factory setup.
Yep. Yeah. And then, well, I mean, we also got to figure, like, okay, well, if we really wanted to get crazy with it, we could run one line out of here to a T, and then put both of these lines into the T here, and then run that down, and then take this line off the top altogether.
You just have one for the front and one for the rear.
It would be one line that came down into a T, and then there'd be the one that goes into there, and then the one to here. We can cut and redo all the lines. That's not a big deal. It's just figuring out how we want to accomplish it.
Well, it's been a day, and we didn't get as much done as I thought we would, and I kind of assumed it, because every time I like, we're gonna do this, 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 and this, we don't ever get that, and that done. But we did get a good idea of how everything mounts. So we got the soft lines. I know they're all loosely there because we have a lot to do underneath. We talked about and figured out where the main bracket's gonna go for the rear, and just, we have a good idea of where everything's gonna go. I loosely, well, I shouldn't say I have anything in place for the fuel tank, but we've got the brackets in place, and then the fuel tank itself is sitting roughly where it's gonna end up going. But we do have the lines ran. I zip tied them up just so they don't freak out, but we gotta get the wiring, all that stuff done before we can really make strides with that. But as far as the front setup, we got the lines connected here. We got the side, the passenger side, basically fully hooked up to the proportioning valve. We know what we're gonna do for the driver's side. I'll save that for another video. We did loosely fit the inner fender to make sure we had clearance with the front to back line, but we're gonna have to run the line from the front down into the driver's side. This side's good, but we're gonna do some changes here just to clean it up, make it look good. We figured out where we're gonna do the pressure regulator. So the Holley setup actually looks really nice. It's a nice little billet piece, so I don't mind that being in view. So we figured with the vintage air bolt looking like trash, we're gonna drill this hole out on the bracket a little bit, and we're gonna actually just mount this right there. And it will allow us to bring our return and our fuel line right above the frame rail to come straight up. Well, the dash 6 will come straight up into the bottom of the regulator. That's the return. And then we'll have the dash 8 come up and around into the side. and then we can literally just run the line from the side of the regulator right to the carb. So it'll look nice, it'll look clean. And we'll get some billet separators or something down here to make just the hose lines look really good. We didn't get a chance to touch the transmission or the power steering lines. Those were the items that I was hoping we were gonna get to today, but we just didn't. And that's okay, we can save that for another day, but the toolbox is just, it's got the aftermath everywhere. So yeah, so we got a lot of stuff to still do. We got the lines for the power steering and the transmission up here. So those are just nice and safe and out of the way, but I feel like we made some progress today. So either or, it's just one of those things where you just gotta chip away at it, get as much done as you can and do what you can. So today is Saturday. This video will be going live on a Tuesday. If you guys aren't familiar, I try to upload videos every Tuesday and Thursday of every week. So potentially more coming soon as time and effort frees up. It's just been non-stop craziness. So if you guys enjoy watching stuff around the build, I have a ton of videos already. If you guys want to see more content, hit subscribe. New content always coming out every week. The goal is to get this bad boy done. The original goal was to get this done before what would have been CamaroCon 2020, which is come and gone. But knowing that that show got canceled because of COVID-19, a lot of things just slowed down. I wasn't nearly as pressing on stuff. So the goal right now is to be able to fire off the engine, and the big outlier is the wheels. So we're gonna get the fenders on soon, now that we have an idea with the brakes, and we can probably tackle those pretty quickly. We'll get those fenders on, get all of our offsets measured with the inner fender in place, and then at that point I can order my wheels and then go from there. So you can see I've taken off the wheels. I'm tired of seeing those ugly center lines on the car. It was just killing the vibe of the project for me. I had to take them off. I did. So I ended up getting the handles and the inner hardware and all that stuff set up. We still have some issues with the locks and the strikers, the pins. So we got some finagling to do there, especially on the driver's side. The driver's side has some issues. And started working on the dash, getting the lower portions in, started fitting the gauge cluster and all that kind of stuff. So it's happening, it's coming together. So it's just, again, little pieces at a time. So thanks for checking out the content. That's all I got for today. Until next time, guys, see you on the road.